we didn't know it at the time, modern pop culture would be forever defined and a contemporary mythology conceived due to several small events in the late 1950s and the early 1960s. In the late 1950s, a young California boy would watch his first episodes of Adventure Theater, which had just recently acquired the rights to the old Flash Gordon film serials. The young boy would fall in love with science fiction. In the early 1960s, the father of the same boy would buy him a 35mm camera to encourage his interest in photography. And encourage this interest he did. The young man would go on to enroll at the University of Southern California's film school. This young man, Star Wars creator George Walton Lucas Jr. I myself was introduced to Star Wars as an infant in 1977. Apparently my mom didn't care too much for the no baby rules in movie theaters. As a young boy, I played with Star Wars figures, not G.I. Joes. And even in first grade, I missed one of the last days of school to go see the 1983 premiere of Return of the Jedi. The Star Wars saga has not only entertained generations, but it has also inundated pop culture and strengthened contemporary mythology. I'm going to tell you about 3 things that are the most noticeable influences the Star Wars saga has had on modern pop culture. The first, the lightsaber. A sound and light, and you knew what it was before I even told you. The lightsaber may just be the most popular and most recognized sci-fi weapon ever conceived. It was the winner of a worldwide survey of most memorable movie weapons. The survey included 25 weapons from famous movies of all time. It was given to film critics and film fans alike the world over. The lightsaber won by a large margin. And it's not just a toy weapon. On Amazon.com alone, not only can you buy a prop replica or a toy like this, you can buy lightsaber room lights, lightsaber keychains. You can even find lightsaber chopsticks. Chopsticks. The next influence I'll talk about has to do with our modern desire to parody everything. Well, if imitation is the greatest form of flattery, Star Wars has been flattered. I don't even know where to begin. Let's start with films. The first parody of Star Wars came out just a few months after it premiered. An 18-minute film called Hardware Wars in late 1977. A decade later, the granddaddy of them all, Mel Brooks' Spaceballs. After that, Lucas himself has even produced 2 of his own short film parodies. One about a lonesome Ewok called Return of the Ewok, and one about the star-studded, flashy, glamour career of a droid called R2-D2 Beneath the Dome. There are even a number of cartoons. Currently, the Family Guy series has parodied all 3 of the original Star Wars films. Also, Robot Chicken, another current TV show, it will air its 3rd parody this year. Star Wars has also been parodied in music, most notably by Weird Al Yankovic. His 2 parodies include one called The Saga Continues to Don McLean's American Pie, and Yoda to the Kinks' Lola. The third influence that I'll talk about is Star Wars infusion into our modern lexicon. Luke, I am your father. Do or do not, there is no try. We've heard them all. As a matter of fact, in the early 80s, Ronald Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative was dubbed Star Wars. Ronald Reagan himself dubbed the Soviet Union the evil empire. Recently, during the 2008 presidential election, a holographic tool referred to as a Star Wars effect, or the Star Wars effect, was used by CNN to reproduce correspondence from hundreds of miles away into a local studio. The phrase, "May the Fourth be with you," has even been used in British Parliament. This a pun on the famous Star Wars line, "May the Force be with you." These are just a small sampling. George Lucas created more than just a summer blockbuster in those late years of the 1970s. His films that he created, they had a world with a detailed past. The Star Wars universe was a lived-in world. It was used. Unlike the shiny, flashy world of Flash Gordon. He also created characters that had lives beyond the film. Each one of his characters had a backstory beyond just 2 hours of screen time. He has also managed to touch more than just one generation. The original trilogy started in 1977 and went through 1983 and touched several generations at that time. The prequel trilogy rejuvenated that love of Star Wars in 1999 and continued through, with 3 films through 2005. More recently, Lucas has roped in more younglings with his Clone Wars animated series. Season 4 is this fall. Beyond that, there's what's called the Expanded Universe, which started in 1978, a mere year after the first movie, and continues to this day. All in all, George Lucas has created this modern mythology, and pop culture would not be the same without Star Wars.